Rampant illiteracy, malnutrition, and
बता दिया। प्राइवेट है।
Larry.
Warm greetings to honorable dignitaries, learned delegates, respected guests and students. I, Vanshita Vikram, welcome you all to this track on energy and environment. I'd quickly like to welcome our respected co-chairs for the session, Dr. Rahul Valvalkar sir, President, India Energy Storage Alliance and MD of Customized Energy Solutions India Private Limited. I also welcome Dr. Rashi Gupta ma'am, founder and MD Vision Mechatronics as a co-chair for the session. Today, we have with us some eminent speakers who will be shedding light on the topic energy and environment. So we have with us Shri Gauranga Das sir, Director Govardhan Eco Village, Ms. Swati Bhogle ma'am, founder Sustain Tech India Private Limited, Shri Nitin Akhade sir, Director, Customized Energy Solutions. Dr. Rashi Gupta ma'am, as already mentioned, founder and MD Vision Mechatronics Private Limited, and Dr. Nitin Lapsetwar sir, Chief Scientist, CSIR, National Environmental Engineering Research Institute. I would like to request Dr. Rahul Valvalkar sir to welcome our esteemed guest with bouquets, mementos and shawls. I would now like to hand over the podium to Dr. Rahul Valwalkar sir to introduce our speakers and take the session forward.
Thank you very much, and thank you for all the participants for being here till end of the day. So we had a very good kickstart for the energy track with Dr. Chetan Solanki laying the need for action, and we have here all the amazing panelists who are operating on ground, who are implementing initiatives which are making a difference on ground. So without taking further time away from the session, I would like to start with Shri Gaurang Das ji for his opening presentation. So we'll start with Swati Bhugle ji. Yes.
Without me, he will not go. Thank you. I think somebody can do my slides. But in the meantime, let me just tell you that I think I would like to thank Dr. Rahul and the entire team of Ideal Villages for calling me here to participate in this very important session. I met a lot of good friends again here. I made a lot more friends. The other thing also is that I think we are meeting at a very important time and on a very important subject. Time because while global leaders are debating nationally determined commitments, NDCs, in Sharm el-Sheikh, I think what we should be doing here is talk about locally decided choices, because we are all practitioners, quite a few of us, and so we should put forward the agenda of people who cannot come and participate in these type of forums. So that's what we will try to do. But today I think I will just begin with some information, some data about energy for cooking, and then talk of what kind of transitions are required and what kind of transitions are possible, given that so many people are really suffering from indoor air pollution and the country is affected by deforestation as well. Yeah, next slide, please. Yeah, see? Yeah, so why should we be discussing clean cooking or cooking energy at all? Because about 800 million Indians are still cooking on traditional wood fires, even if they have an LPG connection. This means that 216 million tons of biomass is burnt inefficiently in cook stoves annually, roughly equal to 324 million tons of carbon dioxide, or 2.4 million hectares of scrub forests denuded annually. I must thank my colleagues my friends from World Bank for giving me all this kind of data. And then traditional wood fires are the largest source of pollutants with adverse impact on health and the environment, especially on the health of women and children. And it is estimated that in the year 2019, there were about 1.2 million premature deaths in India due to household air pollution. I'm not sure I agree 100% with this number, but whatever it is, the number is very large and is very disturbing. So I'll just leave it irrespective of what the number says. In the energy context, again, we have estimated that annual consumption of energy for cooking in India is 1,104 terawatt hours. And 13% of this energy is coming from traditional biomass. The rest could come from electricity, LPG, etc. The goal of the government has been, when it announced 5 years ago its draft national energy policy, was to roughly halve this consumption of energy through energy efficient interventions. But I think now, 5 years later, and with the kind of people that have collected here, we can be a little more ambitious, and we can also trigger a thought process, not just for energy efficiency in cooking, but also for net zero cooking by the year 2050. We won't have any choice but to go in that direction, because by 2050 it is expected that the world would be fossil free. One second. Again, clean cooking addresses 4 of the SDGs: good health, well-being, gender equality, climate action, affordable and clean energy. But I think it is important that if we want to seriously address all these 4 SDGs, we must understand scaling of clean cooking interventions to be able to address these sustainable energy goals. Without scaling, we are not going anywhere. And that seems to be the biggest challenge for all clean cooking practitioners, researchers, everybody. How do you scale clean cooking? Some more data and more projections. UN projects that India's population in 2030 would be about 1.5 billion. I think we've crossed 1.4 billion already. And the International Energy Outlook projects that in 2030, 580 millions will still be fully or partially dependent on solid fuels for cooking, which means that India will miss the SDG 7.1 target by 2030. What we have seen is that if you're talking in percentage terms, we have seen a 15% decline in the share of population that is relying on solid fuels. People say dirty fuels, but nothing is dirty. I don't like to use that word. But what happens is, because the population is growing, even if the percentage numbers are declining, you still find that the number of people who are cooking and dependent on solid fuels is not coming down. We've had a very successful LPG scheme of the Pradhan Mantri Ujjwala Yojana, PMUY, but estimates are that even 40 million households will still be left out of this program upon completion of this program. We are near complete, but these are people who would never, either so remote or so unaffordable that they would still continue to be left out of the program. Yeah, so let's look at how cooking energy patterns have changed. This is the year about data on 2012. We find that in rural India, about 60% of the population was cooking with solid fuels, you could say, or dirty fuels, or whatever it is, but not clean fuels. Let's just say that. At the same time, when you're looking at urban India in 2012, we find that 68% of urban India were using clean cooking fuels, largely LPG, and I think some amount of induction cook stoves. So the focus of clean cooking, based on this chart of 2012, should clearly be rural areas. Now let us look at what the numbers look like in 2021. Look at the urban areas, we find that about 91% of urban people are cooking on LPG or induction cooktops. But whereas in the rural areas, we find that about the 25% continue to use exclusively solid fuels, and about 19% partially solid fuels, partially biogas, which means about half the rural population is still using traditional cook stoves. What this tells us, the difference between 2012 and 2021, is that the concept of stove stacking, that is the concurrent use of multiple stoves or fuels for cooking, is now a reality. It's a more recent intervention, and it just shows us that transitions are happening. Whether at what rate, for whom, etc. is different, but the concept of cooking energy transitions, I think, has taken root, primarily because of the PMUY. So what do we mean by cooking energy transitions, at least for the sake of this conference? I would like to say it should be complete eradication of traditional smoky fires from kitchens by 2030. Shift to renewables by all for cooking by 2050. And every cooking energy device should adhere to safe, healthy cooking with emissions adhering to WHO standards. Of course, WHO continues to revise its standards, but we should be almost there. What should we be doing immediately? our immediate attention must now be focused on the 500 million households that would continue to cook on wood fires even in the year 2030. Most of these are remote, rural, forest fringe tribals who live in inaccessible areas, right? But what we should be doing now is planning for this transition and building the ecosystem for this transition, because as Chetan has told everybody, we cannot wait. So what are the barriers for clean cooking? One is everybody keeps talking of awareness, accessibility, LPG, affordability. But that's not all. That's more for mature products like LPG. We were using these words in connection with the LPG program. But when we go into new technologies, emerging stoves, emerging fuels, we will have identify many more barriers. We realized that LPG would be a part of the cooking mix till 2050, which is okay. But post-COVID, one thing that we have seen is that every household is spending about 7 to 10% of their monthly income to be able to afford LPG, which means that they are giving up on some other factors to be able to afford LPG. Most likely, what is being compromised is girls, education of girls, health, safety, etc. of girls. So that is of particular importance, that girls should not be, their needs should not be compromised. What are the enablers for this transition? Enabling policy, we've said this so many times, innovations across the supply chain, not just in product, but in process, in financing. We need all kinds of innovations. We need behavior change campaigns. We've seen that many foreigners are coming into India to talk of behavior change campaigns in an environment and for a people whom they don't know, whom they don't understand. So the behavior change as conceived by, say, University of Berkeley is just not relevant to Indian conditions. We need our own understanding of what is the behavior that needs to be changed and how to do it. Addressing affordability and accessibility issues. Rahul, please tell me when my time is up. Huh? Yeah, maybe another 2 minutes. Abhi, ho gaya, more enablers would be identified in course of time. I'll just run through these policy recommendations. What we need is short-term, long-term interventions starting now, and now means right now. Clean cooking should be made a development goal and a priority. Focus on rural areas I have mentioned before, and invest in innovation, sensitive financing, and ecosystem building. As far as innovation goes, I think we must have a multi-RE, multi-fuel, multi-stove approach. Incentivize products, process innovations for RE-based cooking. Popularize modern biogas. I'm a great fan of biogas, but I don't see why it's not taken off the way it should. Develop thermal storage batteries. Rahul, particularly for you. We talk of electric batteries, but I think thermal batteries are very important, because if you look at India's overall energy consumption, I think thermal energy constitutes more than electrical energy. Yeah. And again, decentralization, all of us have been talking about it. We need to reduce the cost of solar cooking. Behavior change campaigns, very important, but people are not being able to address it at all, because I don't think enough social scientists are working in this space. We have to make renewables-based cooking affordable, with whether it is with subsidies, whether it is incentives, whether it's sensitive financing, whatever. We don't see PAYGO kind of options, which are very popular in Africa, come to India. And we should make renewable-based cooking accessible as well. Build the ecosystem, train, incentivize stakeholders. I wish there was some kind of discussion on this aspect in skilling programs, but maybe we haven't sensitized the skilling group adequately. And the transition will pay very rich dividends for people and the planet. So I think I will stop here. Thanks.
Thank you very much, Dr. Swati. I think Dr.
take questions
Yeah,
for her
if there
now?
are one or two questions, we can quickly take questions because she needs to rush for to the airport.
Otherwise, also, I think Nitin can answer on my behalf. Either of the Nitins can answer on my behalf.
No, no, any questions, please, let's take. Wow,
Then
the
we-
audience has understood everything perfectly, no questions. Ma'am, please. No, no, she'll give you example. Ma'am, please.
किसका एग्जाम्पल चाहिए और कितने एग्जाम्पल चाहिए? अच्छा, so behavior change we have had. हाँ, तो behavior change we have had village level meetings, but the entire behavior change story was completely captured by LPG, and there was no behavior change for saying, do you have ventilation in your kitchen? Do you have, why are you not using biogas? So always we've seen that one technology, one idea just runs off with everything else. So we need behavior changes for clean cooking, for improved cook stoves, for biogas, for e-cooking, etc. So that people continue to use a mix of fuels and not 100% relying only on one fuel.
So that's a very important point, and I think Chetan mentioned in his remarks about need for looking into all aspects, identifying why we are using certain energy, which form of energy you are using, and then using it more efficiently. So all those forms need to be done, and many times people expect policy interventions to solve all the problem, and I think maybe the example what you gave, I think, is a classic example where even government is now realizing that yes, it was a good success story from point of view of clean cooking, but it is not a sustainable way even for the government in terms of just distributing the cooking cylinders and then expecting people to use it in a sustainable fashion. So that's where I think we need to have.
Yeah,
these
so
type
one
of
last point
yes.
is that don't expect 100% success, because we can never go to the field with a mature technology unless it goes, fails, people give feedback, there is version 2, version 3, version 4, it will never succeed. So be prepared for failure, invest in failure, but learn from failure. And that is how we will have the mix of fuels and products that we need. Yeah, thanks.
Thank you. Well, before inviting Shri Gaurang Dasji, I wanted to acknowledge also contribution of Mr. Indrajit Chatterjee, who has been spearheading this initiative, and especially the energy track from the Wheels Global Foundation. Also Dr. Ashok Das, who is a co-founder and CEO of Sun Moksha and a well-known name in the mini-grid area. He could not be with us in person because he's out of country. And also Dr. Sundar Kamath, who has spearheaded this entire energy and environment track. Sorry for missing their introduction in the initial opening remarks. But now, without further delay, would like to.
First a photo and then
Oh,
first a group photo and then. Can you just take this off and put the main back button? Session manager. Yeah, he's a part of us. One photo with thumbs up also. Everyone is.
yes. So now third time is a charm. So, Gaurang Dasji.
So you can switch on this, reset the timer also, because we give very long spiritual discourses, you know. Yeah, 15 minutes? Do I have 15 minutes?
Then
Yeah,
we
yeah.
can take some questions.
keep
so
10
you
only.
can take 10 minutes.
10 कर दीजिए उसको. This one? Okay. Slide. Yeah. So thank you very much for giving me this platform. I'm going to speak on the Govardhan Eco Village model, where we are establishing the 17 SDGs. So the idea was we wanted to connect the city to the village, and we found that what is the greatest need of people in the city? The people in the city are looking for peace. Anxiety is one of the biggest pandemics. 370 suicides every day, 300 million people across the world going through stress. And they are looking for peace. And people in the village are looking for paisa. So we thought, can we connect peace to paisa? That was the idea, that let's have tourism for people in the city and rural development for those in the village. So the three pillars of Govardhan Eco Village is spirituality, sustainability, and social impact. Harmony with the self, harmony with the divine, harmony with nature, and harmony with community. So impact is zero hunger, and as many of you are aware that ISKCON is already famous for 3 million meals every single day across midday meals. But also in the district of Palghar, we have been serving as what is known as hunger-free Palghar. One of the biggest challenges which we find is that because of hunger, the women are highly anemic, malnourished, and it affects the next generation, and the cycle of poverty and hunger and malnutrition thus continues forever. And interestingly, India has this double burden problem in the rural places, where even those who have the food do not have the right kind of nutrition. As far as healthcare is concerned, one of the biggest challenges we have found on the ground, although we are running 4 primary healthcare centers, is India's statistics is 14 lakh doctors in India, 7 lakh doctors are Ayurvedic and naturopathy, 7 lakh are allopathic. Out of the 7 lakh, 1.5 lakh are for 80 crore rural population, and 5.5 lakh are for the remaining 50 crore urban population. And most people who are doctors do not want to live in villages, and we face extreme problem because of that. If you ask them why you don't want to stay, they say there is no English medium school for my kids in future. And then when you ask the teachers, can you set up a school, they say there is no hospital in the village. So who will come first is a big dilemma. So some of the people who are very close to us, they just staged a walkout, and ultimately I went to Dr. Pratap Reddy of Apollo and said, let's set up some telemedicine centers, because that seems to be one of the only hope. Otherwise you have Ayurvedic person sitting and giving allopathic prescription drugs in primary healthcare centers. That's the ground reality. Education wise, 27 crore students across K to 12 in India, 3 crore in university systems. But you may be shocked to know that at 12th standard there is an 88% dropout rate from K to 12, and only 12% of the students who enter the kindergarten enter into the college system in India. So there is such a huge dropout. So we are trying our bit, and we are very aware of the fact that education comes from the Latin word educare, which means to bring that which is within. And so we are very focused on the fact that the main purpose of education is to establish the right intention. Why there is so much of anxiety? Because intention is at 4 levels as given in the Gita. The lowest level is intention due to fear. Higher than that is intention due to desire. But both fear and desire as intentions put you constantly in anxiety. Only when you go beyond the tamogun and rajogun and come to the sattvagun, and the intention comes to the level of duty, then some degree of sanity and peace prevails. And then the highest is intention caused by love. So traditional Indian education was focused on having a culture which would transform the people and improve their intention. So teachers are not just supposed to be carriers of information, but they are supposed to transform the intention of the students from working just based on fear and desire, but come to the level of duty and love. And that's what we are trying to do. Gender equality, we have various women empowerment programs, self-help groups, more than 300 self-help groups, and we are training the women to have various kinds of skills by which they can add additional income to their families. Then SDG 6, clean water and sanitation. As all of you know that 97.5% of the global water is salt water, only 2.5% of the water is fresh water. Out of that, almost 99.97% of that water is in glaciers or in groundwater. So what you see outside in the form of rivers, and the fresh water we see is only very small percent of 0.3%. Therefore, it's very important, although Palghar district gets almost 3,500 millimeters of rain, still, if there is no proper intervention and rainwater harvesting is not done and we do not provide the proper facilities, very soon we see that the farmers, in spite of having the water in the rainy season, and just after that, they lose access to that. So therefore, we teach farmers how to do hydrogeological survey. Otherwise, you know, when we were informed about hydrogeological survey, you know, Dr. Himanshu Kulkarni from Pune Aqua Dam, they quoted us almost 6 lakhs. And then some of our monks said, hey, why to pay 6 lakhs for hydrogeological survey? We have a villager who can take a coconut in the hand and go around, and whenever the water is, the coconut will start rotating. And the best part of that idea, it costs only 200 rupees. When I told it to our architect Chitra, she said, if you employ that technique, then I'm out of the project. And therefore, it's sometimes challenging to actually inspire people to follow a scientific methodology. And as far as clean energy is concerned, yes, the solar is there, the biogas is there, but I really had found the ADPM, animal driven prime mover, very interesting, where the bull power could be used, and using a gear and shaft system getting the water out. But the problem in that we faced, but the bull was energetic, the guy behind the bull used to get tired and he would go on strike now and then. So, you know, having experienced a lot of interventions on the ground, I have no romance left with any of these techniques, because we have seen the difficulties and challenges in the implementation in many of these. And then next is decent work and economic growth. When they do not have proper land, we help them set up some small shops and we train them. And also we have a 70,000 square feet skill development center we have created, the largest in Maharashtra. And we have created 400,000 mud blocks on site, and we host people regularly. They come here from different parts of the world as part of SDG 10, reduce inequalities. They are coming to see what the villagers do and learn from the villages, which is very, very important. And then as part of spiritual and sustainable ecotourism, we have recreated Vrindavan forest with 12 forests and 7 temples, because why all the spiritual places have to be in few places only? We can recreate those places. That's the idea. And so how does all of this fit in? Unless people learn how to control themselves, because discipline is the fusion of intention with action. So we are teaching wisdom, Ayurveda and yoga, helping people change and transform their lifestyle as part of United Nations Faith for Earth program. And I've been appointed as a United Nations Faith for Earth counselor. And then conferences for climate action. And this was very interesting, where we have a pyrolysis plant which converts plastic into diesel. And this is for liquid waste, for plastic waste especially. And what we have is conservation of seeds, which is very important. We had so many varieties of indigenous seeds which need to be conserved. And peace, justice, and strong institutions and collaborations for the same. And thus we are trying our little bit to implement the 17 SDGs at the Govardhan Eco Village. I'd like you to play that 1-minute video, sir, so that it gives you a summary of what we have been trying to do. So the last one, which is a 1-minute video.
Rampant illiteracy,
that's the one.
malnutrition,
But
and lack
it's
of
not coming on the
infrastructure.
screen.
This is the story of Wada,
No, it's
one
not
of
coming on the
India's
screen.
most backward tribal areas. However, since 2010, ecotourism has become a lifeline for this region. Govardhan Eco Village's sustainable development model, which is based on harmony with the self, the environment, and the divine, has helped employ over 300 tribal families. More than 60,000 tribals have been provided free medical care.
मोतीबिंदूचं ऑपरेशन झालं मला आता चांगलं दिसतं
30,000 free meals are provided to school children every day.
मुलं स्वतःहून शाळेत यायला तयार होतात.
Over 60 borewells have been installed.
पाण्याच्या सर्व अडचणी दूर झाल्या.
More than 300 families received training in organic farming.
आता पैसे येतात आणि बचत पण होते.
Govardhan Eco Village has transformed the lives of the most deprived communities in the world. Rampant illiteracy.
So thank you very much, Gaurang Das ji, for sharing the complete holistic approach what you have taken. This is interesting. Now we are switching gears, and I have my colleague Nitin Akhade, who will share about the work which is happening. We're using mini grids, how to develop economic development activities. So Nitin, handing it over to you.
Yeah, thank you, Rahul. So I'm very much fortunate today on the dais. Like I have my boss or my superior mentor. Then Gaurang Prabhu is like my spiritual mentor. Right from my engineering days when I was in Mumbai University, first year, right now the people came, right, ISKCON people, and they used to catch student, right? And then in that way, right, I was really fascinated by the process. And then that side, Nitin sir is my mentor for PhD. And then Swati Bogle was my mentor for my Clean Energy Access Network, where I took my first job to travel into India and see like, can we develop some rural interventions? So this is very humble opportunity for me to see like what we can give back to the society with this all beneficent mentors. Thank you all. Yeah. So, yeah, so we I think the presentation is not on the screen. Yeah. Now it's there. I'll just see it's going. Yeah. Yeah. Oi. Yeah. Okay. Yes, so rural economic development, small and medium scale industries. Timer reset कर दीजिए. So it will be mix of Hindi, English, not Marathi though, but we can try that because almost all of the speaker on the dais speak Marathi, but we'll continue with English.
10 minutes.
10 minutes, yeah, no, 15 minutes is more than enough, but 10 minutes, okay. Yeah, so we can see these beautiful mini grids, right? So we are going to see what we are doing in this rural India in a special state called Jharkhand, right? Where we get 40% of our minerals from the country. But again, in that part of the country, we have tremendous 19 aspirational districts out of 24, categorized by Niti Aayog. So what CS is all about, and then we can deep dive into what we are doing. It's a global MNC working on developing energy management solutions, spanning over US, Mexico, Northern America, we can say. Then we have offices in India, especially in Delhi and Pune, then Vietnam and Japan also. So we are developing hardware and software solutions, but what actually we do as a part of this rural economic development, that will be a topic of discussion for today's session. Apart from that, we work in all these 3-4 areas, consulting in energy storage especially, which Rahul leads this, and then storage IQ and subscription services, R&D lab we have for testing batteries, and then Comets, we have our own market assessment tool for designing systems, and then power trading, which Netra leads, managing assets and also doing power trading. And this is one of the area where we are trying to integrate all the industry players. It's an alliance, Industry Alliance, India Energy Storage Alliance, which Rahul is the president and MD of CS India, and this is a coalition of almost 150 plus energy storage companies across the country, across the globe I can say. And we run n number of initiatives like ISI Academy, providing free training modules on storage, then Women in Energy, Move for Mobility, and other initiatives. And now this is one of the initiatives which we are running, is called Micro, a rural economic development program aimed at creating sustainable and economical microgrid systems. So what we usually do, हम गाँव में जाते हैं, right? हम identify करते हैं एक village, जहाँ पे, it's very difficult है, घूमना अच्छा लगता है, but I think you are constrained me. This will be amazing. Hello? Hello? Yes. So, what we do, actually we find out a village, we see like, can we do some economic development activity which can generate some livelihood opportunities for local communities. So यहाँ पे आप कुछ images देख रहे हैं, solar panel है, दीदी कुछ कर रही है, machines है 2-3, dryer है, बहुत सारा technical चीजें हैं. We'll see what it is all about. So what is this micro? We are working in 3-4 areas, Maharashtra, Uttar Pradesh, Jharkhand, Bihar, and Northeast also we have started now. So what we are doing remote monitoring systems, the thing you cannot measure, you cannot control, right? So we are installing such remote monitoring system and understanding, can we do some bit improvement in the existing systems? Second is our livelihood programs. Can we really do some bit of our contribution in giving back to society through our CS or CS Foundation? And third is more on developing some livelihood opportunities. And we all know all this, our GDP, which is almost like 3.2 or 3.3 trillion dollar, agriculture contributes almost 20% of it. And it was a savior during the time of pandemic, right? It is almost 20%. Anybody knows which country has GDP in agriculture more than India? थोड़ा गलत आदत है मेरा, मैं क्वेश्चन पूछ देता हूँ, right? Anybody? There are a lot of IMS students, right? Management student. So they play with numbers. We have GDP, manufacturing, services and agriculture. No, it's only India has GDP maximum in agriculture. None of the countries, neither Australia, neither New Zealand also, which are good in dairy and animal husbandry. So this is the savior. But what is the saddest part also, or the strongest part, if you can think as an opportunity, is it provides employment to 44% of our population. More than that, if you add allied sector also, it goes to 60%. So see, there is an imbalance. So what we are trying to do, can we balance that? And how? So can India or can agriculture help us to achieve this target of $5 trillion economy, right? And it's possible. By 2028, 2027, definitely will reach this number. But there has to be an effort, consistent effort in all these three sectors. Services, it is going strong. Manufacturing, it is going strong. We are seeing it, ISO also like pushing on different PLI schemes. 18-19 schemes have been launched by Government of India under Atmanirbhar Bharat. But what about agriculture? Just by having paddy or wheat in the crop will not do. With increasing in generation, the marginalized land is becoming smaller and smaller. The farm size of land in Jharkhand was 2 acres in 1947. Now it has gone to half an acre. 4 generations have passed. Divide to hota hai land, right? Batwara hota hai. Though the productivity goes down, and we are just sowing paddy and wheat. Why? Because of MSP. We get good returns, but that is not sustainable returns. So what we are trying to do in this effort, and this is again correlating to the energy. Yes, definitely wires have reached each and every village, but not electrons. Sobhagya scheme, yes, it's doing well. Everything is doing well, but still there is scarcity or there is lack of energy access to the villagers. And you can just hardly see this 140, 180 volts. You cannot run a 3-phase machine in rural context, or you cannot run any productive load. So what we can do, we can always have a hybrid system. Solar plus we can always have a grid electricity where we can power small machines which can do livelihood activities. We heard from the beautiful book by British author, Small is Beautiful. So we are trying to do such activities where already mini grids are commissioned. Can we tap into so small loads which can generate local employment? And that is one of the study what we are going to see. So rural livelihoods, these are some of the livelihoods what Gaurang Prabhuji and other speakers also discovered. And this is beautiful contrast image. You can see the barren land in front of the woman and the panel backside. Now with that electricity, through solar pumping, they are able to cultivate some land, and they're going to crop mustard seeds. And then they are going to hull the mustard seed in mustard meal. This is the actual case in Gumla district in Jharkhand. So they are using this electricity for getting mustard oil, sarso ka ya rai ka tel. And they are generating employment for local people. And this is one of the village, Naratoli in Jharkhand, where they are using the solar power for catchment areas also and powering the village also, and also getting the productive loads. Productive load means कुछ भी चला सकते हैं, आटा चक्की चला सकते हैं हम, तेल का मिल चला सकते हैं, नॉन फार्मिंग एक्टिविटी कर सकते हैं जिससे आमदनी हो. ना आपने नेटफ्लिक्स या हॉटस्टार पे सीरियल देखा होगा 1, 2, 4, 5 क्या था वो किलोमीटर. A person returned from Bombay to Jharkhand by walking during pandemic just because he lost job in Bombay, so he has to come to Jharkhand for his sustainable livelihood, right? So can we create such small opportunities in local villages in our country? Definitely yes. And how? We are doing one such small effort in by having a Turdal pulses processing unit in Jharkhand. So why Jharkhand? We already note this, and we have mapped this all 4 districts: Gumla, Khuti, Hazaribagh and Ramgarh, where we are trying to develop this pulses processing plant. क्या है उसमें? कुछ नहीं, एक सोलर पैनल है, 5-7 किलोवाट का सिस्टम है, 10-15 किलोवाट आवर का लिथियम आयन बैटरी है, ग्रिड कनेक्टेड भी है, राइट? दैट आल्सो इज वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट. नाउ वी शुड नॉट हाइड थिंग्स. जब सोलर पे ही चलता है, एवरीथिंग इज ग्रीन इज ओके, बट यू हैव टू highlight what is true. एंड देन देयर आर 4-5 दीदीज, उनका 6-7 घंटा दिन का बच जाता है. क्या करे सर, हमको कुछ तो जॉब दे दीजिए, कुछ तो हमको रोजगार दे दीजिए. सो दे आर हर्लिंग दिस प्लांट. तो हमने क्या किया, टेक्नोलॉजी मंगाया अकोला यूनिवर्सिटी से, इंटीग्रेट किया सोलार से, एंड वी ट्रेन दोस दीदीज. हमें पता नहीं है, राइट, वी आर इलेक्ट्रिकल इंजीनियर्स, राइट, मास्टर्स हमने न्यूक्लियर में किया, लेकिन हम गांव में जाके अभी काम कर रहे हैं. बट इट्स वेरी एंटरप्राइजिंग बिकॉज दे आर सो मच एस्पिरेशनल इन दिस वुमेन, दे वांटेड टू डू समथिंग. व्हाई? क्योंकि उनके बेटों को, लड़कियों को अच्छा एजुकेशन मिले, हेल्थ केयर अच्छे से हो. जो प्राइमरी हेल्थ केयर सेंटर होता है 5 किलोमीटर दूर होता है ये गांव से. सो मैक्सिमम डेथ आर बिकॉज ऑफ स्नेक बाइट, बिकॉज गांव में बिजली नहीं है, सोलर स्ट्रीट लाइट नहीं है. अभी भी है सिचुएशन ऐसे, राइट. वी जस्ट हैव टू कम आउट ऑफ योर कंफर्ट जोन एंड गो एंड सी लाइक व्हाट वी कैन डू फॉर द सोसाइटी. तो ये हमने तूर दाल का प्लांट लगाया है जहां पे 3 टन का सेल होता है. अभी 3 टन, इट्स अ बिग. 1 टन का भी नहीं होता था हमारे जब वी स्टार्टेड बैक इन 2020. एवरी पैंडेमिक वेव वी हैव ट्रैवल्ड एंड ट्राइड टू सी लाइक व्हाट वी कैन इंप्रूव. फॉर्चुनेटली विद गॉड्स ग्रेस, लाइक ना, वायरस ने अभी तक तो कैच नहीं किया है, लेकिन लेट्स सी, राइट. सो वी विद द सक्सेस ऑफ अदर plant was set up by in Nagwa village. Then third unit was this Soltex. क्या होता है, दाल मिल सब अच्छे से बन जाता है, लेकिन मार्केट का परसेप्शन बन गया है कि पीला कलर का दाल चाहिए, राइट. थोड़ा हरा, थोड़ा ऑरेंज कलर का रहता है. इट वॉज रियल न्यूट्रिशियस. लेकिन अभी FMG से, राइट, उन्होंने परसेप्शन दिया पीला कलर मीन्स बहुत अच्छा गला, तो उसके लिए मशीन बिठाना पड़ा 35 लाख का, तब जाके किधर हमारा माल बिक गया. These are some challenges, right? फेलियर भी बोल सकते हैं, या आप बोल सकते हैं इट वाज गुड अपॉर्चुनिटी एंड थैंक्स टू आवर मैनेजमेंट, नेत्रा, राहुल, स्टीवन, राइट. एक बार बोल करना है नितिन, हाँ जरूरत है तो सैंक्शन कर देते हैं, राइट, जो भी पैसा है. दैट इज ऑल्सो इंपॉर्टेंट, राइट, मनी मैटर्स. सो दिस इज व्हाट 60 टन्स तक प्रोसेसिंग कर सकते हैं. दिस इज स्मॉल मशीन, ऑलमोस्ट 10 HP मोटर, वी कैन ड्राइव दैट एंड इट्स नॉट रनिंग ऑन सोलर. टू बी वेरी ऑनेस्ट, हमने अभी सोलर लगाया नहीं बिकॉज प्रोडक्शन कॉस्ट गोज वेरी हाई. 30 रुपए पर यूनिट जाता है. And when we have government electricity, it comes to 4 to 5 rupees. लेकिन इस पे 4-5 लोगों को रोजगार मिलता है. That's very important. See, this is the thing how it improves. ये ऐसा रहता है. Oh, sorry. Then the final product is that one. This is the initial one, the right, left one, and the final is that one. So this is process happening at large scale. Can we do at a small scale, right? In a pocket of our country. And these are the employment generation. For last 1 year, we are able to generate some around 500 employment days, right? And in that too also almost 100 days per दीदी. ना मनरेगा कितना है, उतना ही देते हैं मनरेगा भी, right? उसमें भी बहुत सारा चीजें होता है, right? जो आएंगे मनरेगा को देखने के लिए, but it's good, at least something is better than nothing. Similarly, हाँ, so similarly this was the employment generation and this is the end user income generation. पैसा भी चाहिए, राइट, कैसे पैसे तो 3 से 3.5 हजार रुपए उन्हें महीने के मिलते हैं. 5 दीदियों को ऑलमोस्ट लाइक 15-16 हजार उनका इनकम जनरेट हो जाता है इससे. एंड अनदर थिंग इज माइक्रो क्रेडिट. एवरीबडी हैड सीन ग्रामीण बैंक फ्रॉम बांग्लादेश. सिमिलरली रंगदे इज डूइंग अ सिमिलर एफर्ट बाय प्रोवाइडिंग माइक्रो क्रेडिट. 6% पे कोई लोन नहीं देता इंडिया में. अब मैनेजमेंट इंस्टीट्यूट के स्टूडेंट हो, राइट, बेयर मिनिमम रेट तो रेपो रेट से ज्यादा होता है, 4-5% ऊपर ही ले लेते बैंक. तो 6% दे आर गिविंग इंटरेस्ट एंड CS being a guarantor for that is good for the farmers. तो 5-6 लाख का लोन भी मिल जाता है. So whole idea, if they spend 5 lakh rupees, can they earn additional 50,000 to 60,000 rupees each season? So that is the whole idea. और ये एक्टिव, ये छोटा सा मशीन है जो एक्चुअली दाल बनता है. तो हलर है, इसको रॉ मटेरियल डालना पड़ता है. ये रॉ मटेरियल तुअर दाल का, ये सोलार पे चलता है पूरा, सिंगल फेज मशीन डिजाइन किया है ये. और ये डिफरेंट मशीन्स हमने लगाए थे टू अंडरस्टैंड लाइक ना हाउ वी कैन सी improve technology can benefit the productivity, right? The time. So this is some additional version of that and this machine doesn't cost lakhs of rupees. कितना होगा? जो पहला मशीन था वो था 1,25,000 का. ये दूसरा मशीन है, ये 80,000 का है, और वो तीसरा मशीन है ऑलमोस्ट 2,15,000 का है. But that is generating sustained employment. ऐसा नहीं कि 50-60 लाख रुपए में इन्वेस्ट करना पड़ता है. So this is another machine and this is a multi-deck grader. And this is a small message from Kiran Didi.
जोहार, मेरा नाम किरण देवी है और मेरा गांव है दाल मिल का प्लांट खुला है, जो हम लोग यहाँ 4 दीदी काम करते हैं। और हम लोग को जो गोटा आता है अरहर का, वो बाहर से आता है। और सबसे पहले हम लोग गोटा को ग्रेडर मशीन में ग्रेड करते हैं। उससे बड़ा दाना अलग होता है, छोटा दाना अलग होता है। और जो छोटा दाना होता है उससे फिर हम लोग डिस्टोनर मशीन में डिस्टोनर करते हैं। उससे अच्छा गोटा अलग होता है, तिरछी अलग होता है। उसके बाद में जो नमी रहता है जो अच्छा गोटा में, वो हम लोग डायर मशीन में सुखाते हैं। सुखाने के बाद में हम लोग फिर मिनिंग करते हैं। जो हम लोग पहले हल्का सा घिसते हैं। उसके बाद में फिर हम लोग उसको तेल लगाते हैं हम लोग 4 दिन इसी तरह से करते हैं। उसके बाद चौथा दिन में फाइनल दाल जो होता है, फाइनल दाल निकलता है। उससे हम लोग सोटेक्स के लिए भुरकुंडा में हम लोग का एक मशीन है, उसमें हम लोग भेजते हैं दाल को सोटेक्स के लिए। उसके बाद में हम लोग 4 दीदी जो काम करते हैं इस कार्य में, दाल मिनिंग करने में, जो इस कार्य के लिए CS इंडिया को धन्यवाद देना चाहती हूँ कि हम लोग को इस तरह का गांव में काम मिला है। और हम लोग सबसे पहले तो हम लोग अपना घर में सिर्फ अपना घर का ही काम करते थे। जो हम लोग को यहाँ पे इस तरह से रोजगार मिला है, तो हम लोग को कुछ पैसा आमदनी मिलता है, जो हम लोग अपने बच्चे को अच्छे स्कूल में पढ़ा पा रहे हैं। और
So I think I'll just conclude this. So this is my team. It's always to we started developing this. This is all the intervention. अभी हम दाल भी बेचने लगे हैं. दाल का rates भी है, which are more easier and very nutritious dal at market price, competitive price. And this is our planning for next 5 years. We want to definitely scale up, right? ऐसा one off करके नहीं छोड़ना है, right? Which is a part and parcel of development sector, right? एक कर दिया चलो थोड़ा पैसा मिल गया, things are okay. No, that's not the way. And this is our pattern, and thanks to our team, right? Steven, Rahul, Netra, Rupesh, ना, who leads the effort, right? मैं तो जाके presentation देता हूँ, but actual काम तो वो लोग करते हैं, right? And Didis and Loknath and Satyendra. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Nitin. Again, I think amazing work, and again, I have learned a lot from the effort what you have been taking on, how it is not just about technology or about developing technology, but to make technology work on ground. And finding out, Nitin has been traveling to almost all the states to work with local entrepreneurs and finding out some of this machinery which was maybe designed for some other application, try to understand if there is some improvement required so that the efficiency of the machine is improved, the reliability of the machine is improved, and then putting together this entire ecosystem. So,
Okay.
so again, thank you very much, Nitin, for all the work. Although you ended up crossing time, so no questions for you in the Q&A. So now, I think without further delay, I would like to invite Dr. Vivekanandan. Is he there? He's online.
Okay.
Yeah. Dr. Vivekanandan will be sharing some of the insights on something which is upcoming as a green hydrogen, because many times when we are looking into green hydrogen, mainly the focus is on large industrial application where it is being seen for decarbonization of petroleum refining or for fertilizer creation. But Dr. Vivekanandan has been doing some work on looking into green hydrogen applications for rural areas. So we'll request him to share his insights. So he's the one I'm talking.
My voice is clear?
Yeah, go ahead.
Are you hear me?
Yes, please go ahead. We can see
Okay,
you on
sir.
screen.
Yes, thank you. Thanks, Mr. Rahulji. Thanks to organizers. I can't hear your words, I think so. Please.
Yeah, please go ahead. We can hear you.
Okay.
Yes, we can hear you. Please go ahead.
I'm audible now, okay?
Yes, you are audible. Please go ahead.
I will share my screen. Okay, thank you. Okay, my screen is visible, no? Thank you for everyone, okay? Because of so first and foremost, I think so. Okay. I think, okay. So first and foremost, what particularly um, today we are discussing morning itself. Yes, today and yesterday we are discussing about that energy transition and other things and different verticals in this conference. Okay. So the towards that we are going for upliftment of rural community only. So this part also we are discuss about the green hydrogen. So green hydrogen is a fuel for future because of it's having that it is an energy carrier. It can transfer the heat, or transfer the heat energy, or transfer the electrical energy, what it may be. Okay, it is an energy carrier. It's available in abundant manner. Okay, the country like India, so we are having the huge potential of green hydrogen. Okay, so like particularly in rural sector also, we are having that huge potential. Okay, so normally India has a significant edge of green hydrogen protection due to its favorable geographic conditions and abundant natural resources. Normally, India is in a unique position. Okay, not only for self-sufficient, it's also produce extra hydrogen for export potential. We are having the export potential also. So, transition of hydrogen economy will not reduce India's import dependency. Normally, in the clean air, in order to maintain the clean air and in order to reduce the greenhouse gases, so we are using the hydrogen economy. Okay, and normally the India can decarbonize. Normally in India decarbonize and energy intensive sector, particularly in energy hard bed sector like energy industry, transport, and other things and all. Okay, so we are having the national hydrogen mission. It can normally in February 2022, Niti Aayog released that later to green national hydrogen mission will help us to make a green hydrogen, help transition to India in green hydrogen economy. Okay, so how will connect with the is a framing of hydrogen with the net zero. Okay, so normally we had nearly 93 countries are adopted net zero targets. So 39 countries have adopted hydrogen strategies. Okay, so using hydrogen we can face the net zero concept. Okay, so these are the hydrogen supply mix over the time. Normally 660 million tons of hydrogen required to obtain that 2050. We have to reach that net zero emission. Okay, so nearly it will 22% of carbon abatement due to that using of hydrogen. Okay, hydrogen in the energy mix. Okay, so what about the India? Okay, the green hydrogen in India, particularly normally the global demand actually in the 70 to 90 million ton of hydrogen per year. In 2020, it's more than 7 million ton of hydrogen, and now 2022, our actually our demand for hydrogen in India is 9 million ton. Okay, so we have to we are importing hydrogen from otherwise we can make hydrogen by fossil fuels only. Nearly 20% of hydrogen for iron and steel industry we are through fossil fuel only. Other thing 45% used for refining sector also we are using this kind of fossil fuels only, and 35% of for chemical industries. Okay, so we are producing nearly 3% of carbon dioxide emission for the environment through this kind of activities, because of we are using that natural gas or coal and byproduct of refineries and other thing and all. Okay, we have to make a hydrogen. That hydrogen can emit the carbon dioxide. So the carbon dioxide, it gives the greenhouse emissions and all. Okay, so what is hydrogen? It is the simplest form. It is a hydrogen is the energy carrier. Okay, to store, move, and deliver the energy. Okay, so it's a form of hydrogen. It's a function of hydrogen. So it is the most abundant element in the world. Okay, so universe. Okay, everywhere we can get. Okay, because of it, water is a hydrogen. Okay, hydrogen carrier. So it is an highest energy content, having that highest energy content. So these are the some advantages of hydrogen. So next one is what is the process chain of hydrogen? Okay, Okay, so the process chain is particularly for we are supplying the renewables, green hydrogen. That's why you're supplying the renewables through our nuclear, or biomass, or natural gas, any other sources. Okay, so through this we can get the hydrogen. So particularly for coal, we can gasification process. We can get the hydrogen carrier as a hydrogen gas. Otherwise, it can be a hydrogen-based fuels. It's a synthetic fuel like that. Okay. So the natural gas, normally the natural gas is a steam methane reformation process. Okay, from a green hydrogen-based fuels or a green hydrogen gas. So the biomass is a biomass gasification. Also, we have options for the particularly for India. We are having so I will explain later. But we are having the huge biomass. Okay, but particularly in agriculture industry. Okay, in the rural sector, we are having that huge biomass is there. So this biomass can be converted into hydrogen. Okay, so it is a value added for the farmers also. Okay, then storage part. So storage part, it can be particularly for hydrogen carrier. It may be a hydrogen gas, or it may be a hydrogen based fuels. Okay, then a storage part. The storage part. Okay. Yeah. Please. Thank you. Okay, these are types of hydrogen, gray and blue and green hydrogens. So these are the various kind of hydrogen. What is the things and all. So these are methane, steam methane reforming, and the gas, gold gasification, everything and all. So these are the methods. Okay, these are the hydrogen energy systems. Okay, where we are connected and how to get the hydrogen and how to use how we are using the hydrogen and all. So this is a green hydrogen. So green hydrogen, we are telling now this is a electrolysis. Then supply the electricity through the electrolysis. Then CSB and electricity through solar and everything. So we have these are the some supply chain everything. Okay, so these are some electrolyzers. Okay, the types of electrolyzer. So map here where we are making that electrolyzers for making of hydrogen and all. So these are structure. Okay, this is our control. Actually, we are having that stubble burning. This is a main important issues in Delhi. Okay, headquarters we are facing stubble burning. So how we are facing that stubble burning? What is the meaning for it? It's a way of clearing the field of buddy graphs. Okay, so the buddy graphs, actually huge amount of buddy graphs, particularly for India. It's abundant, not only the abundant availability of biomass from the agricultural residues normally. So the residue which can be used as a source of production of hydrogen. So particularly this is a diagram. Actually, this is a biomass, particularly in biomass is there. So biomass totally 240 million tons of which could be lead to I think 240 million tons per year. Okay, so these are various locations. We are having that biomass intensity. Okay, we can convert it into hydrogen. Okay, so total of the things, total of things nearly 240 million tons. Okay, so these 240 million tons we can produce the hydrogen. Okay, around 1.25 metric million tons of tons per year. Okay, it isn't sufficient for Indian, particularly we are having sufficient for our Indian economy, Indian usage, and we can export to the other countries also. Okay, this is our advantage of farmers, because of these are the value added. No, we can already in Madhya Pradesh already we have one plant. Okay, that plant can convert that hydrogen biomass into the particularly in agri waste. Agri residues. Okay, the farmers are send the farmers are they sell the agri waste into that biomass centers. Okay, so they can get some value added cost also. Okay, so they will get some extra revenue for them also. Another thing, they can reduce that. We can reduce the burning of residues and everything and all. So we can reduce the carbon and this kind of problem also we can solve. So we can put. So last meeting with Niti Aayog, I also mentioned that. So we have to make this kind of biomass hydrogen plant in and around the Delhi. So we can reduce this kind of activities, and we can reduce this kind of scubbling and all. Scubbling of buddy straw and everything and all. so we can improve that farmers' life as well as the in and around the people's and can reduce the carbon dioxide emission. Okay, emission and everything, and CHG emissions also. So this is our part. Okay, so how you can make successful? Actually, the process are there. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, sure. These are the plant. Okay, we are plant nearly 100 gram of hydrogen from 1 kilogram of biomass. So 60 gram. Okay, 60 gram from the 1 kilogram of biomass, we can get the 100 gram. Okay, so these are the fuels. Okay, thank you for your this presentation is there. So okay, these all are yeah. Thank you. Yeah. I already shared with the audience. Yeah.
So now, without further delay, I would like to request Dr. Rashid to share insights on the e-mobility in rural applications.
Rahul, I'm not just going to speak on e-mobility. I'm going to add more on energy storage as well, and I'll present a very short case study, but by the time they're putting up the presentation. What is energy? Any one of you, the beautiful people out here in the room, what is energy? At least one hand up, at least somebody talking about energy. I mean, you've been hearing energy right since morning. We had such a big talk in the plenary session on energy. So what is energy? Anyone? Yes, please. Okay, E is equal to MC square, layman terms, fantastic. Anybody else? Anybody else? On what? Yes, please. Put on your mic and just say that.
It's between two molecules.
Okay, kinetic energy between two molecules.
Ma'am, capacity to do work. Ma'am, capacity to do work.
Where was that coming from? Okay, there. Okay, capacity to work. Yeah, more. I had two hands up there. Yes, please.
Combination of forces.
Combination of forces. Okay,
Yeah.
Somebody behind, you want to say something? I can't hear you. Switch it on, please. Yeah.
Talking with you also is energy.
Ah, fantastic. A big round of applause for him. Talking with me is also energy. Perfect. Okay, now what is energy? We look at so many definitions out here, but we've forgotten that we are energy. A dead body lying on the floor does not have energy. Please understand, you and I together are energy. Now, what is the transformation that we are looking at? Just electrical energy? Just thermal energy? Just biomass? No. We are looking at a complete transformation of energy. And we all together have to come and do that transformation. When we talk of sustainability, my time is not up. You forgot to reset the clock. This is also energy. The happy laugh that we just had is also energy, okay? Food, water, money, human beings, animals, wind is all energy. And what we have given just electricity a color of energy. That's not right. That's incomplete definition of an energy. We all together are going to transform these places to make it more sustainable, make it more habitable, and make a better, happier place. And how will that happen? What I'm going to show you here are two case studies. Okay, I will come back to electrical energy because that's the focus I have been assigned to today for this conference. But how that small change in the case study brings a sustainable development in every aspect. Okay? Okay. Now, when you talk of an ecological dream, I mean, it was very beautifully, when Gaurangji just showed all this SDGs he had coupled together. Well, I'm not going to couple all. I'm just taking two because I am not as capable as him as of now. So I'm just going to take SDG 5 and SDG 7 right now. Well, there are many things which combine to energy, wherein you have access to clean water, energy, environment, healthcare, education, and skill development. So when I move to the first case study, is like, what did we do in mapping the rural India's development? Now, what has happened is, what we are trying to do, we are going away from the rural India to the urban India. Most of us are moving out. Now, what happens when you move out is you forget your roots. And that is where the foundation has to be strong. That is where the development has to be strong. Otherwise, you cannot flourish. Your building is going to collapse if your rural development, your foundation is not strong enough. So that's what we tried and focused, because right now a lot of basics are lacking out there. Now, this is one of my first case studies. I'm going to more focus here. What had happened is, there was this primary school at Katavaram village in Telangana, where there was a very funny situation that used to happen. Now, this school, they had a pole right in the center of the playground. Very beautifully built school. 2 floors, just simple 2 floors, nice school. And the pole had a CFL light hanging on it, and the teacher would go out like this and see. If the CFL bulb is glowing, that means today there is electricity, there could be a class which can be conducted. And if that CFL light is not glowing, that means there is no electricity today, students will go out, play, and no lectures will be taken. I mean, no class will happen today. So that was the fun part of it. Despite having a computer, a projector, you know, every IT related thing in that school, because CSR mein people donate. But what is the use of that donation when you cannot use the thing for actual development of the children who are coming for studying there? So then when we got to know about this, okay, we said, fine, we'll solve this problem. We'll give them 100% reliable, assured electricity at the school. Now the outcome, what happened was, they started, okay, it was a very small project, nothing too big to boast about, you know, nothing in megawatt scales and, you know, stuff. It was just a simple 2 kilowatt solar with a 3 kVA inverter and a 5 kilowatt battery, very simple stuff. Now, what happened in that was, after 1 month, we saw that the girls started coming to school. I was surprised why girl childs are coming now, why they were not coming before. Now, access to clean energy gave them access to water. How did that happen? They were very nice clean toilets, but they didn't have water. So at home also they did not have water. School also there is no water. What's the big deal? Why should I go to school? And when they had electricity, the water pumps were working, the school had water, they felt like coming to school. Such a small thing, you know, by giving them clean access to electricity, they got access to water. And with that water, the girls could come to school because they felt more secure and safe with a clean toilet. So sanitation improved. Security improved. Despite giving midday meals, children were not ready to come to school because of these problems. Then the pandemic happened. The very good pandemic happened. I don't curse the pandemic at all. It has been a blessing for all of us if we realize the positive side of it. Now, in the pandemic, the school did have electricity. Now, what did they do? Everybody started on the mobile phone. They started doing e-learning classes from there. So up to 6th standard, it's a very small primary school, but all the children 100% attended. And just before that, before the pandemic started, in the same year, their intake of the students had doubled. So imagine what something small as access to clean electricity can do. I will not say energy because I believe energy is more than electricity. So imagine what such a small thing can do. Now here is like when she was, this is the whole system what it looks like, and she is the headmaster, she is termed as the headmaster of the Katavaram Primary School. She said she was so enthusiastic, she did so much of effort to get CSR funds to get whole of this thing ready up and going. So such efforts can change the entire perspective. And now what had happened is everybody passed from that school. The whole batch. Imagine everybody if attending every day, they will definitely pass because they are learning and it is a happiness that the child has. And when our team was there for installation, the neighboring kids came and they learned about solar from all of us. They were so happy, you know, fixing screws, nuts and bolts, and okay, we are contributing to our school. So imagine such small kids can do so many wonders. Then we sitting here all educated, such a big energetic crowd, don't you have the power to change this world? Aren't you capable of transforming the energies together? Every one of us can contribute to this change. Now I'll do the second case study. Now this is a big case study. Here I can put my colors of saying that it's a megawatt scale case study. Now what happens here was, now this was another different story where a beautiful premise, 28 acres of land, beautifully built, next to heaven on earth with all the plantations, peace, prosperity, people and everything in house, cooking in house, transportation in house, but again challenge is electricity. The DISCOMs were, I mean, I hope everybody understands DISCOM is the electricity provider, service provider. They could not give them assured electricity, and they were running the entire thing on the diesel generator. And 7,000 liters of diesel was used on every instance that the DG was running. 500 kVA of diesel and storage. They had these underground bunkers to store diesel. However, there was no theft because it's a closed-door community, but still there was this problem of pollution. And as a responsibility of all the citizens that we are, if we cannot contribute to, improving the climate or what we have as an environment, let's not degrade it. At least let's not contribute to the degradation. So they came up with, they have a lot of solar, but it was of no use because it was an on-grid plain vanilla solar, and what happens is during the time you do not have electricity, doesn't work. So now I can see my time is going to be up, and I've promised I'm not going to cross that. So what we did here was we installed the solar with a hybrid energy storage system. Now what is hybrid energy? What we did was, instead of just having plain lead acid batteries or just lithium batteries, we combined the two together in one single system to have energy independence and DG replacement, because we wanted sustainability at a price which is affordable. Because just like how Nitin also said, kaisa kitna jata hai? Sanction kon karega? At the end of the day, our pocket mein paisa nahi hai to kuch nahi hone wala hai. So that was the thing. And second important aspect here was protecting the flora and fauna. Because first we got 100% diesel replacement, and second important thing was, what? That we have to live in harmony with the nature. The small insects, the rodents around us, when you use a lot of electrical systems around, they get hampered. They are the one which are injured and they die. Can we make electrically safe systems even for that environment of the fauna that we have around? And this is such a beautiful place. We have squirrels running around, we have peacocks, and it's a very soft environment. How can we have to preserve it? So that was very important. And what they did is, now coming to e-mobility, if you can see here, I don't know if it has, right, okay. Now you can see the vehicles that they're made. They're all made in-house, running on lithium batteries, charging through solar. So and they have a biogas plant there. They have STP, sewage treatment plant, and they have a solar-based cooking completely in-house, which actually binds everything together to make a clean, sustainable ecosystem. And they can cater to 5,000 people a day. So that's how it goes. And my time is up and my presentation is also up. Perfect on time. Because time is also energy.
Yes. Thank you very much, Dr. Rashi. It's good to have a co-chair as a speaker so that she is handling both the duties together. So thank you. So without further delay, the last but not the least, Dr. Nitin, he will be sharing some of the work on the environmental impact in the context of rural energy transition. So Dr. Nitin, handing it over to you.
Very good evening, and it's indeed a privilege to be here, in fact, and to share with you when Nitin called me that there's a very important conference, and you have to speak on environmental impact of renewable energy. And I got a feel that what kind of a bad feeling a PhD student can have about his supervisor when Professor Solanki is all promoting solar, and he's asking me to tell bad about that. Then I decided what to speak, which is more relevant to this conference. Can I have my slides? Okay, my time starts now. Okay. So, well, I wish and I pray, and given a chance, I meet God, I will also pray what Professor Solanki or all of us are doing. But in an environmental engineering research institute or as a scientist, we need to believe in the reality, okay? Because already we are almost sure about the disaster, but if we feel that everything will be very clean, then we'll be taking a very bad risk. So let's quickly have a reality check, and then we'll go to the rural context and what are the possibilities to minimize the impact, okay? It's not going to be all green, in fact. I was expecting somebody will explain about it, but we already have a statistics. So we need to believe that this is what we have progressed in last 5 years. And I cannot believe that if somebody try to convince me in next 5 years, the statistics will be very different, although I pray and I wish, okay? So if you see the forecast or, statistics for 2040, we are going to not only use coal, we are going to use coal more than what we use today. Same is going to happen with fossil fuel. And what Professor Solanki sensitized you, okay, it looks like from tomorrow we should stop using these fuels. Okay, we are not going to do that for next 2 decades or 3 decades. And there are some very genuine reasons for that. It's our turn to develop. We have got a coal and we are trying hard as a government of India, okay, to try for the clean coal technology. And after the recent developments in the Europe and all these war, we need to also think about the energy security, and probably coal is probably one of the best bet about it, okay? So oil demand is rising, coal demand is rising, LPG demand, as Swati ji has already mentioned, there are almost 37% of the people who are not having LPG, we are trying to give them. So the bottom line is the fossil fuel consumption is projected to increase, okay, despite the impressive growth in RE, okay. So we need to read the data properly. Today we are at 500 gigawatt and we have 100 gigawatt renewables, and if somebody tells us that we will be 400 gigawatt renewables after 10 years, yes, that's a fact, but we forget that by the time we'll have 1000 gigawatt requirement, okay. So we need to be very, very careful. Now, reading the data appropriately, I used to highlight this since last 10-15 years that every year the IMD predicts that there will be a normal monsoon and the Sensex is jumping by about 1,000 or 2,000, and we say, why don't you distribute district wise? Now here's the scene, and I was very happy to read that monsoon was above normal, but agri will hit, because half of the country will be rain deficient and 25% will have flooding. Nothing helps. So we need to read and interpret the data very properly. Now, why we should discuss in the rural context especially, and I was happy to read about this and talk to my colleagues, in fact, it's a bit of a different thing. You all know what is just transition and why it is so important. So the rural context, if you see, the energy transition requires, in fact, overcoming very specific challenges. I'm an environmental scientist. We know the challenges of the cities like Bombay and Bangalore. We call it a hotspot and the skyscraper and all these things, which are completely different in the rural setup. But the rural is probably more vulnerable, okay? There's a low population density, and the development path is pretty different. They follow a particular development pathways. We need to look into their natural resources, in fact, physical isolation, very limited diversity in their economic, prospects, very high rate of vulnerable population, so on and so forth. So I can write, in fact, 3 slides on this, and I myself was wondering that rural setup is so different when it comes to energy transition. So we have to be very sensitive about this, okay? I'm sure you know about the ecosystem services, which are roughly $33 trillion per year, okay? That's what you call it CO2, like sequestration or water cleaning or whatever way the nature is helping us. And that's mostly coming from those which are less polluted, less populated, in fact. So we need to take care of those rural areas. So I was happy to see this. We are focusing on the rural, and scientifically and technically, these are the issues which we should keep in mind while going for, transition. We have seen the cooking energy transition, and suddenly LPG prices are up and there is a slippage. I also work in this domain, so we know it actually. So what is climate change is an excessive energy use problem, while the rural folks are still energy deprived. Okay, so they should not be punished any further, okay. Why I'm here to talk about the coal, because coal is going to be there, that's number one, and very unfortunately, we deal with these problems not appropriately. And that's why I'm going to worry about the solar, I'm going to worry about the battery. There are 3 things related to the coal power generation: coal mining and transport, power generation, and the waste and the emissions, okay? So nearly 78% of the coal power capacity is not liable to meet emission norms. And we are going to increase the capacity substantially in the next 5 to 10 years. These are the rural specific areas. We go and we check in the field and we found that things are really bad actually. 300 million tons of fly ash. 2 months back there was a big breach of the fly ash pond close to Nagpur. We have a Koradi thermal power plant, and like the hundreds of hectares of land was like completely damaged. So we need to worry about that. Always we started debating at my institute, NEERI, that we talk too much about the GHG, which is very much justified. But for GHG, we cannot sacrifice or we cannot ignore the conventional pollutants. Okay, we are in a pretty bad situation. You talk about the particulate matter. Okay, you see the last week what happened in Delhi. So you cannot accept that, okay, let's forget about the particulate matter and talk only about the CO2, okay? So these are the rural areas, and to highlight it, this fly ash can kill the land, which is a livelihood for, a large number of population. Mining is again damaging the rural areas, and this is something interesting for you, in fact, environmental impacts of abundant coal mines and thermal power plant. India needs to decommission thermal power plants and coal mines in a large scale. There are new technologies coming for the sake of energy efficiency, okay, and for the climate change reasons. Now, what we'll do with these plants? They're going to be abandoned, okay. So, end of life management is a challenge which we are working at our institute, okay, and disposal of these toxic waste, in fact. So, 20% of current capacity is primed for decommissioning, okay. So, we need to also look into that. Now, how to do that? So reclamation of abandoned mines is very much possible scientifically. This is the brief concept. I can't go into the details because of short of time, but to happily share you a couple of colleagues of mine, they work extensively in this area. This is the degraded land. This is the fly ash dump close to Nagpur. This was the scientific intervention, which was like purely, I would say, biological or bio-inspired rejuvenation efforts. And after about 150 to 190 days, you can turn them into lush green things. So this is very much required, in fact, and this is much possible, I would say. Of course, that doesn't allow us to keep on throwing the fly ash wherever we want. Now, this is life cycle assessment based different options, energy options, and you can clearly say the solar is a winner, wind is a winner, so is the nuclear and the hydropower, even the biomass. So there is no doubt whatsoever that these are the clean things. Now, why I want to touch upon that? Because we haven't managed these waste properly, even for the coal, so we should be worried about the other things. This is India's capacity projection. Well, we are going to generate 3,600 tons of solar PV waste by 2030, and which can be handled very easily, in fact. And there's a good possibility of circular economy, recovery of important like metals from there, okay? Now, recycling and recovery potential is very, very high in this. Now, electric vehicle, this is the scene. In fact, industry says that about by this year, China alone will generate 5 lakh metric tons of used lithium-ion batteries, and that by 2030, the worldwide number hit 2 million metric tons per year. So we need to really, really think about this, how to manage this. This is a future. We have seen that LCA-based assessment clearly says this is much, much cleaner than the coal. Okay, but we are very good at messing up the waste. Okay, so that's why we have to really worry about these things. Now, are batteries bad for the environment? Yes. And what is happening, sometimes we get a new project proposal for the EIA, and those project proposals, for the want of space intensive, they move towards the rural areas. For two reasons. The land is cheap. Second things, they can probably escape the compliance. They can violate the things actually there, which will be a disaster, in fact. So these are pretty serious impacts of batteries, okay, right from the heavy metals, and we don't understand that while releasing the heavy metals in the field, it will ultimately lead to the food chain, and we are going to eat those foods. Somebody has already pointed out that the food is already contaminated with the pesticides and the heavy metals, okay. So I'll take maybe 1 minute. This is already happening, in fact, okay. So the science is available, and how to manage is also available, I would say. Thanks to Government of India, which has already notified the battery waste management rules, okay, and that can be really done scientifically. So we should always promote for that. This is about the wind energy, but yes, it has got a, you can see that just very low CO2 footprint as compared to the coal, but there are few impacts. Okay, normally those impacts are in the rural domain. So I think we can avoid it. We work with the Swati ji, and this is one of the area which is going to be there for another 10-20 years. So we have our own cook stove technology, cook stove I would say, and we are working through CSR fund. Right now we are working in the Khandwa district, some tribal areas as well as Melghat area, and we found this is one of the really interesting intervention. Yes, I agree that a lot of IEC and awareness is required, because we can just reduce the emission, we cannot completely eliminate. We have to understand that at our home we are using LPG, which is the clean fuel, okay? But still we have that exhaust system, okay? So here there are cooking emissions, there are ventilation issues which we are trying to handle, okay? Very good returns on this investment. So we have done a lot of projects in the rural areas, I think in 4 or 5 states, and now we are going through in a larger way. Within 6 months, there should be about a 1 lakh more deployment of cook stove. Carbon finance is coming a big way to help us. Okay, the only problem with the carbon finance to me is they are only asking for the CO2 reduction. They just completely forget what about other emissions. So we are going to intervene in this, that please use this fund for the benefit of the rural folks, but also worry about their health. Degraded land, the very much concern about the rural population. Yes, there are good possibility to do the rejuvenation. And I found this slide just 3 or 4 days back in the Times of India, that these are the annual emissions from food system, which we should really highlight, because if you can get carbon finance, it will be a win-win situation for carbon credit as well as to help our farmers in this. So I'll just summarize here that yes, I may be even wrong, because there's a need of data and the reliable data, based on which only we can say what is going to happen, okay? And the proper inferences. So it's not going to be all green. We have the projections. I wish after 5 years these projections are wrong by International Energy Agency, but as of now, environment doesn't work on the percent share of this thing. Environment will have depend on the absolute number. So you're going to increase your coal consumption, you're going to increase the fossil fuel, the environmental impacts are going to be there. Rural population have some unique transition challenges, okay? We can't ignore the conventional pollutants for sure, like the fly ash, the mercury, the sulfate, the NOx, which are in a very dire state in fact. The thermal power plant asset and mine closure will be a challenge, okay? And we have left with no assimilatory capacity. So I think rural areas are becoming very vulnerable, and we have to think differently. Fortunately, at my institute, we are quite clear that we will consider all these things to happen. So with this, I would still show this slide from Gus Pitt, who was a big environmental scientist from World Research Institute. And he says that I used to think the top environmental problems are biodiversity loss, ecosystem collapse, and climate change. I thought that with 30 years of good science, we could address these problems, but I was wrong. The top environmental problems are selfishness, greed, and apathy, which Gaurang Das ji is highlighting and everybody is highlighting. So we need to really control this. And I hope we are going to sensitize all these young generation, the students, that the indirect emissions and the footprints are very high. If you do not know, a cup of tea has a water footprint of 40 liter, a coffee is 80 liter, and a shirt is a 2,200 liters. Okay, please. So this is the kind of a footprint. So with this, I'll once again thank you all for your kind attention. Thanks.
Thank you very much, Dr. Nitin, for highlighting the complete holistic approach in terms of the ecosystem impact of even the green energy. And I think, again, I'm a student of engineering and public policy, and one of the things is whenever you do this impact analysis, it always depends on where you are drawing the boundary, and your answers can keep on changing, or depending on what answers you want, you can decide to draw the boundary where, and you can get either answer. But I think, again, practically, I think we are running out of time, both for the session as well as, I think, as a humanity, and we need to we need to wake up, we need to take action. And again, I hope that I think the kind of network what is being developed through this initiative by Stanford and Wheels Global Foundation will help us in taking these action forward. Just one, my hope is that I think there are many people who are doing lot of interesting things, and when we see there are lot of overlaps between it, but I still see that many of us are not aware of what others are doing. So again, I would like to thank the organizers for bringing all of us together and making it aware, but then let's not wait for next conference for figuring out what's the update. Let's stay connected on ground as a human to human, and let's work together. I have a small message from Mr. Indrajit Chatterjee, who is one of the forces behind it. Unfortunately, because of his health, he could not join us with us here, but he is listening online. But in the interest of time, he just sent me a message that thank you all in the Wheels Energy Council, all the speakers, all the organizers from BHU, especially Dr. S.K. Dubey, the Wheels Global Foundation, Mr. Suresh Shenoy, Mr. Ashok Desai, and all the board members and chair of the chapters, Dr. Irendra Ghosh, Arjun Malhotra, and Stanford Idea Village committee, especially Dr. Sunny Anand and Sundar Kamath, as well as all the volunteers of the BHU for their time and help in making it success. Let's continue with this rural transformation mission for 2030. Namaste. So with that, again, some of us will be available. Unfortunately, Dr. Rashi needs to rush to airport quickly, but let's, I think, get together, and there is some more, I think, cultural activities which will allow us to interact and exchange notes if anyone is interested. So thank you, everyone.
So thanks to all our speakers for such an insightful and thought-provoking address and sharing your inspiring initiatives with us. With this, we come to a fruitful end of the session. I request you all to kindly proceed for the high tea. We will begin with the cultural
please wait,
program
we are taking a group photo with all the participants. So if you can come here, I think the photographer wants everyone come here and face the screen.